Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel where I read stories aloud, stories from the public domain, of course. And today what I have for you is a Grimm fairy tale. I just read my first one aloud, Rumpelstiltskin, in a previous video, which I stated was my favorite, and I hold true to that. But it's been very interesting diving back into the Grimm world of lore and things like that, and the ones that I used to like, and the ones that I can't stand now, what have you. But I decided to go with, for this one, Rapunzel, which was never my favorite as a child. I don't know why. I just never really clicked with this idea of this girl being locked in a tower and having to let down her hair to let a prince up. I don't know. Just wasn't my cup of tea, but I didn't mind it when I just read it again. And yeah. So a couple quick facts, because I said last time that I would start off videos with just a couple quick facts about stories or authors, what have you. So Rapunzel was originally published in 1812, and the final version came out in 1857. It underwent quite a few revisions because, much like the other Grimm fairy tales that involved women, it was a bit scandalous for the time, I guess I shall say. So definitely had to be softened and toned down and more kid-friendly, because remember, the original Grimm fairy tales were not meant for children. So a lot of what changed was what happened when the prince or guy, whatever, I think it's a prince, encounters Rapunzel and they fall in love. That stuff changes and becomes more friendly, family friendly, Disney friendly. But that's that. At some point you're going to hear this about a rampion, and I had no idea what that was. It's a plant, and apparently, according to my quick 2-second Google search, it's like a turnip with an edible root. No idea. If you've ever had a rampion, let me know how it is, because I actually really like turnips. And yeah, I don't know a lot of people that do like turnips. But if you have had a rampion plant, I want to know what it tastes like. So definitely let me know, and if you think I should eat it, or if you have like a recipe or something, I would love that. So without further ado, my Grimm fairy tale book, and we're going to go with Rapunzel, which, for those of you who don't know, she is the one with the long hair. Okay. So Rapunzel by the Brothers Grimm, out of my Grimm Fairy Tales Barnes & Noble book. Here we go. Once upon a time, there lived a man and his wife who much wished to have a child, but for a long time in vain. These people had a little window in the back part of their house, out of which one could see into a beautiful garden, which was full of fine flowers and vegetables. But it was surrounded by a high wall, and no one dared go in, because it belonged to a witch who possessed great power, and who was feared by the whole world. One day the woman stood at this window, looking into the garden, and she saw a bed which was filled with the most beautiful radishes, and which seemed so fresh and green that she felt quite glad, and a great desire seized her to eat of these radishes. This wish returned daily, and as she knew that she could not partake of them, she fell ill, and looked very pale and miserable. This frightened her husband, who asked, "What ails you, my dear wife?" "Ah," she replied, "if I cannot get any of those radishes to eat out of the garden behind the house, I shall die." The husband, loving her very much, thought, "Rather than let my wife die, I must fetch her some radishes, cost what they may." So in the gloom of the evening he climbed the wall of the witch's garden, and, snatching a handful of radishes in great haste, brought them to his wife, who made herself a salad with them, which she ate with relish. However, They were so nice and so well flavored that the next day, after she felt the same desire for the third time and could not get any rest, so that her husband was obliged to go once more into the garden. So in the evening he made himself ready and began clambering up the wall. But oh, how terribly frightened he was, for there he saw the old witch standing before him. "How dare you?" she began, looking at him with a frightful scowl. "How dare you climb over into my garden to take away my radishes like a thief? Evil shall happen to you for this." "Ah," he replied, "let pardon be granted before justice. I have only done this from a great necessity. My wife saw your radishes from her window, and took such fancy to them that she would have died if she had not eaten of them." Then the witch ran after him in a passion, saying, "If she behave as you say, I will let you take away all the radishes you please. But I make one condition. You must give me the child which your wife will bring into the world. All shall go well with it, and I will care for it like a mother." In his anxiety, the man consented, and when the child was born, the witch appeared at the same time, gave the child the name Rapunzel, and took her away with her. Rapunzel grew to be the most beautiful child under the sun, and when she was 12 years old, the witch shut her up in a tower which stood in a forest, and had neither stairs nor door, and only one little window just at the top. When the witch wished to enter, she stood beneath and called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." For Rapunzel had long and beautiful hair, as fine as spun gold. And as soon as she heard the witch's voice, she unbound her tresses and opened the window, and then the hair fell down 20 ells, and the witch mounted up by it. After a couple of years had passed, it happened that the king's son was riding through the wood and came by the tower. There he heard a song so beautiful that he stood still and listened. It was Rapunzel, who, to pass the time of her loneliness away, was exercising her sweet voice. The king's son wished to ascend to her and looked for a door to the tower, but he could not find one. So he rode home, but the song had touched his heart so much that he went every day to the forest and listened to it. And, as thus, he stood one day behind a tree, and he saw the witch come up and heard her call out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Then Rapunzel let down her tresses, and the witch mounted up. "Is that the ladder on which one must climb? Then I will try my luck too," said the prince. And the following day he felt quite lonely. He went to the tower and said, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Then the tresses fell down, and he climbed up. Rapunzel was much frightened at first when a man came in, for she had never seen one before. But the king's son began to talk in a friendly way to her, and told her how his heart had been so moved by her singing that he had had no peace until he had seen her himself. So Rapunzel lost her terror, and when he asked her if she would have him for a husband, and she saw that he was young and handsome, she thought, "Anyone may have me, rather than the old woman." So saying, "Yes," she put her hand within his. "I will willingly go with you, but I know not how I am to descend. When you come, bring with you a skein of silk each time, out of which I will weave a ladder, and when it is ready I will come down by it, and you must take me upon your horse." Then they agreed that they should never meet till the evening, as the witch came in the daytime. The old woman remarked nothing about it, until one time Rapunzel began to say to her, "Tell me, mother, how it is you find it more difficult to come up to me than the young king's son, who was with me in the moment." "Oh, you wicked child," exclaimed the witch. What do I hear? I thought I had separated you from all the world, and yet you have deceived me." And seizing Rapunzel's beautiful hair in a fury, she gave her a couple of blows with her left hand, and, taking a pair of scissors in her right, snip, snap, she cut it all off, and the beautiful tresses lay upon the ground. Then she was so hard-hearted that she took the poor maiden into a great desert, and left her to live in a great misery and grief. By the same day, when the old witch had carried Rapunzel off in the evening, she made the tresses fast above the window latch, and when the king's son came and called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair," she let them down. The prince mounted, but when he got to the top he found not his dear Rapunzel, but the witch, who looked at him with furious and wicked eyes. "Ah!" she exclaimed scornfully, "you would fetch your dear wife, but the beautiful bird sits no longer in her nest singing. The cat has taken her away, and it will scratch out your eyes. To you, Rapunzel is lost, and you will never see her again." The prince lost his senses with grief at these words, and sprang out of the window of the tower in his bewilderment. His life he escaped with, but the thorns into which he fell put out his eyes. So he wandered blind in the forest, eating nothing but roots and berries, and doing nothing but weeping and lamenting for the loss of his dear wife. He wandered about thus, in great misery, for some few years, and at last arrived at the desert where Rapunzel, with the twins to which she had given birth, lived in great sorrow. Hearing a voice which he thought he knew, he went up to her, and as he approached, Rapunzel recognized him and fell upon his neck and wept. 2 of her tears moistened his eyes, and they became clear again, so that he could see as well as formerly. Then he led her away to his kingdom, where he was received with great demonstrations of joy, and where they lived long, contented, and happy. What became of the old witch, no one ever knew. And that is Rapunzel. And I'm so sorry, the version I read was not in this when I practiced it once before, because I definitely do that. It was rampion in here, not radishes. And everybody knows what a radish is. Not everybody, I shouldn't say that. Sorry if you don't know what a radish is. But what can you do? And all right, so if you liked this video and you would like me to read specific stories, please be sure to tell me that. You can put it in the comments. Remember that everything that I read is a part of the public domain, and it has to stay that way so I don't get sued. And if you're at home when this video comes out, and I assume we all still will be, I hope that you are safe, happy, and healthy. And until next time, I'm Jess Ryan, and yeah, enjoy. That was a lot of ands. I'm really sorry. See you later.